The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Well, I would call that Calamity Corner because it usually is. But Mike, I've been out here since Thursday. I've done everything in the world. I got a new car to drive. I've been given trophies. People have given me hugs and kisses. But this is what I wanted. It's what I've been waiting for these cars to come off of this corner. And guys, it's showtime. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Ooh, let's go racing today, boys.
Welcome to episode 113 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined once again this week by my co-host, James Cush. James, we had to get a boogity boogity in there before they were all over with.
That boogity boogity actually gave me chills.
It was a good one, right?
The last boogity boogity.
Yeah.
There's never been a more influential boogity of all the boogities.
That's
there
true.
It was.
You know, I've been a proponent of DW getting out of the booth, but I was a little choked up this weekend watching all the tribute stuff and everything, and kind of thinking I'm going to miss him a little bit. You know, I kind of think that, you know, he got turned into a caricature a little bit by Fox, and it wasn't all his fault. And I mean, it's DW. He's a goofy guy, and that doesn't always work well with the broadcast. But from everything I've seen, he's the same guy off camera that he is on camera. And, you know, I got to witness it a little bit at Michigan. I bumped into him at the media center, and you know, it's sad. He's been a huge part of our sport for his entire career, and now he's, at this point, no longer part of it. So there's a little bit of me that's like, I'll miss DW for a bit, and then, you know, I'll forget that boogity 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 ever happened and move on. But
It's the way it always goes, man.
Yeah.
You never appreciate it when they're here, and
Yeah.
and then they're gone too soon, and then it's all memories.
I kind of feel like, you know, listening to him talk, and he's been on a bunch of podcasts, and I know you told me to check out Nate Ryan's podcast last week, and I listened to that, and it was really good. You know, it really feels like he's been pushed out and kind of thrown to the curb for this guy that, you know, we all should be respecting and show the respect for, that he's done so much for our sport. And we kind of all were like, oh, let's get rid of DW. It's time for, and it's time for him to do something different, but you know, I don't know. The way it all went down, I guess, kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know we talked about it when Jenna wrote her piece.
Right.
And that was, back at that time, I thought it was a little distasteful, and and even more so when he actually did get shoved out the door.
Right.
And I felt like his goodbye with Jeff during the broadcast was a little awkward too.
Yeah.
Which leads to my speculation that maybe Jeff didn't want him there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say with these things, man. You don't want to speculate and make snap judgments, but
can't help but just feel like he's feeling pushed out right now. Yeah. And that's what I guess hurts the most. If it was DW on his own terms, and it's like, and it's not even like they're going to replace him with anybody or anything like that. There's not even a plan to replace him necessarily.
Yep, two-man booth.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a bummer, but hopefully DW finds a way to stay involved, because he's still relevant enough to be a part of the sport. I just don't think he needs to be in the booth every week.
Yeah, no, he'll be around. We haven't seen the last of DW.
Right.
And he'll be here until, you know, his last days, hopefully
Right.
many years from now. So I'm not worried about seeing DW around. He'll be here. He'll be around.
I don't want to see him do a Cale Yarborough or a Junior Johnson where they're just gone. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, even, you know, Tony Stewart to some regards, he's really not into the garage very often, and when he is, he's very quiet. And every once in a while, he pokes his head out, you know, and
Gets the media all riled up.
Gets everybody riled up, and then he goes back in his sprint car and disappears for, you know, months at an end. So
yeah.
I think we'll see DW around something similar to that. He'll be there. You know, he's one of the greatest drivers of all time. Whenever we have a Hall of Fame ceremony or something like that, he's going to be around.
He had a good piece on Fox this week with Kyle Busch going through the trophies at Kyle Busch Motorsports, and I thought it was kind of funny. And Kyle mentioned, you know, that he's coming for that 85 wins, and so DW has always had quite a bit of respect for Kyle Busch. Kind of sees Kyle Busch as a young DW, and I kind of agree with that. I mean,
a newer version, yeah.
Definitely fits the Jaws mold, that's for sure. You know, not the most liked guy in the garage for certain, but
I don't
heck of a
recall
driver.
Darrell Waltrip being a huge cry. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say it. I won't say it.
Yeah, well, they were a little tougher back then.
Yeah, that ain't that the truth.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, they were real men back then. We got it pretty cushy these days.
Yeah, with their air conditioning and power steering.
Listen, man, I've been stripping my deck and having to reseal the thing, and it's torturous. It's torturous. It's manual labor that men back in the day were just do, and I just hate it. I hate every second of it.
I like to hire people to do that stuff.
I'm such a wuss, man. I hate it. I'm out there complaining, and it's just not. It hasn't been good. Just hasn't been good.
Before we get in the actual podcast, you mentioned Tony Stewart. Did you see the sprint car wreck at Atomic Speedway, the sprint car Circuit of Champions or whatever?
I did catch that. Yeah.
Into the stands, man, that was insane.
That reminded me while you work at Tri-City now, but
right.
One of the craziest crashes I've ever seen came at the local dirt track with the sprints.
Mm-hmm.
Sprints on dirt came into town, and that a sprint car went flipping down the front stretch across the asphalt of the old half-mile speedway that's there, and then over the fence and almost landed in the back of a red Chevy Silverado.
Yep, I was there that night.
That was insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of reminded me of that. But not going into the stands. That's scary moment. You don't want to see. Definitely don't want to see that.
No, I love sprint cars. Absolutely love sprint cars, but they scare the crap out of me sitting in the seats.
When they get going, don't they bounce? They remind me of like a Super Ball when you let it go. Like the ones that you get out of the 25-cent machines at the grocery store.
To me, it's kind of like if you took a football and rolled it. You just never know what direction they're going to fly.
Yes, and that's scary. Like they have bounce to them. It's weird. Yep. They just go all over the place. But I think that's because they have so much torque, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's pretty nuts. All right. Well, since we are a NASCAR podcast, let's talk about the NASCAR race. We're stalling because there's not a whole lot to talk about.
And we had to pay our respects to the career of DW.
That is true.
So
that is true.
That's okay. I'm okay with that.
That was probably the most interesting thing. Definitely the most interesting thing that happened this weekend at Sonoma Raceway. It was a Toyota Save Mart 350 from Sonoma Raceway. Martin Truex Jr. smokes him, man.
Kyle tried to make it a race there, but he never got within a second.
Yeah.
And Truex, I mean, it was a two-man show, and it wasn't even really that. It was Truex.
No. Well, actually, that's not true, though. It was a three-man show. Just the one man only was up front for the first stage, and the rest of the race fought through the field. But William Byron was on it for sure. Mm-hmm. But Chad Knaus had a strategy of, we're racing for points, we're racing for stage points, and that's what they did. And they
gobbled them up.
They worked it to a T. I mean, they made it work. It was a bummer he didn't get a chance to race for the win, but I think mission accomplished.
They had good strategy, and William Byron showed some of that wheelman that he's got in him. And he got 36 points, led 21 laps, got a playoff point that could come in handy for him down the road. That was cool. Kind of showed something there a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a good move. Looking at the results here, he's in the higher up as far as points gathered on the weekend. So good for him. Good for the team. That
he's
could go a long ways.
He's got a nice little bit of a cushion in the playoff standings too. He's up to 14th now. So he's ahead of some dudes, man. He's ahead of Jimmy. He's ahead of Kyle Larson. So Eric Jones, another one that should probably be in the playoffs. So that's a good sign.
Yep. So, as you said, Kyle Busch tried to track Truex down. Definitely had the car to catch him if he could have just kept that pace, but wore the tires out too quick. Truex was too steady out front. Any thoughts on the pit stop? Because Kyle stayed out a couple extra laps from Truex. Did that hurt him? Because he lost a lot of time.
Lost some time, and I wonder the effects of having a little older set on there towards the end too. I mean that definitely probably played a role because he really couldn't gain any ground, and you could tell Kyle was laboring to get to Truex while Truex was just on a Sunday drive. He was just kind of keeping an eye in his rearview mirror and didn't really have to even step it up a little bit. Kyle was giving it all he had.
Yeah. We saw the return of the carousel at Sonoma Raceway. We're going to talk a little bit more about the carousel in a few minutes, but I mean, it was cool to see. I think it's great that it's back. Hopefully it stays back, but I mean, it added a passing point, I guess. I mean, it certainly did add 2 passing points to the track. So in that aspect, it was good to have. But it didn't have the massive effect that everybody was kind of dreaming that it would have, which didn't surprise me. It was never really like an integral part of the track before, but it was, part of the track. So, but I'm glad it's back. Hopefully they keep it. Let's see.
Yeah, they had to do a little bit of adjusting to it. Some of the drivers, they add a curb over during practice or in between practices. Other than that, the drivers they had to kind of threw them off a little bit. It looked like it was going to be a little more intriguing during the practice sessions, but once the drivers, it's just the same thing. Once these drivers get used to something, it's, they're so good. They're, so professional that they just drive the wheels off these things, and it doesn't really matter sometimes.
Practice is when that stuff's going to happen. Practice is when you're going to hit the tire barriers at the Roval for the first time,
The turtles,
all that crazy stuff's going to happen in practice. By the time you get to the race, you got it all gathered up and figured out.
Most of these guys do for sure, yeah.
I did have to go back though and look because Sonoma's made some changes over the years. If you look at the track, I mean any track you look at 20 years ago and look at it now, it's going to look massively different. But there's been a lot more of clearing of areas and things that are completely different at Sonoma than they were back then. One thing that I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention, and I don't know what year they did it, but they used to come out of turn 11 and onto the front stretch, and the front straightaway where the finish line was on the drag strip. They would go right onto the drag strip and then come back off the drag strip into turn 1. Well, they don't do that anymore. They race next to the drag strip. So
and the flag stand was on the other side, too.
Right? And
they had grandstands.
Yeah, there was a big grandstand there.
Yep.
I watched a little bit of the 96 race, and just to see the crowds there, oh my God, 96 crowds at Sonoma. Or 97. It was 97 was the last year.
And people hated road course racing back then.
Yeah.
Absolutely loathed it. Now they like it. Now they love it.
Yep. But so turn 7 confused me because I remembered it being a lot tighter than it was. You'd come off the drag strip, you'd turn that left off of the drag strip, and then you'd hit the hairpin. And I remember that hairpin being really tight. But I went back and watched the 97 race and the earlier races, and it's exactly the way it was before. They just don't have guardrails and stuff near it like it used to be. So I guess it seemed tighter than it was. But all that's still the same stuff that was there. The track is the same. There's just extra runoffs and all that stuff that we've seen added everywhere. But I don't know, just that silly stuff that I pay attention to. But it was good to have. So.
No, it was cool. I like that these tracks are trying this thing. I'd love to see the boot. I saw a lot of conversation about the boot at Watkins Glen. I mean, I'm open to these tracks trying different things from time to time, and the road courses have the flexibility to do so.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Sonoma even there's other configurations we could do with Sonoma. The IndyCars race on a completely different,
They do, yeah. They take they don't do the turn 11 like they do in Cup. They cut that corner really tight. So
yeah. Probably don't want to park an IndyCar into that. First of all, I bet you the IndyCars would have trouble making that turn.
Yeah, well, and that turn 11 is one of the iconic turns in the sport. You can't get rid of it.
Well, you'd be flying an IndyCar down in there and touching tires and sending cars over the pit wall if they had them go to that turn. Yeah, I'm sure that's why they don't go down there. But let's see, winners and losers on the day. I don't think we could possibly talk about winners on the day if we didn't mention Matt DiBenedetto.
I benched him on my fantasy team. I had him in the starting lineup.
Dang, what a day for Matt DiBenedetto.
A really good run, man. Really exciting for him.
A caution flag at the end, and he could have been racing for the win.
He was there. Yeah, I gave it a ride, man. That was a great run from him.
Yeah.
I think when we saw him at Daytona earlier this year, he had that little bit of a flash. We thought, oh, maybe. This was another one of those. Like, yeah, this thing might work if this team can kind of build on that performance. Yeah, for sure. That was great to see that.
Speaking of Matt DiBenedetto, Bob Levine, his team owner, has been very active on the Twitterverse. If you are not following him on Twitter and you want to see some maybe negative aspects from a smaller team owner in NASCAR, he's been extremely vocal. It's been interesting. Some of it I think is probably not stuff he should be sharing, and other stuff is like, ooh, that's a pretty interesting insight. So
he's good. It's a good follow.
It's been a good follow for sure. Denny Hamlin, 5th place finish.
The Toyotas, 4 of the top 5 spots.
Ryan Newman, 7th place. That wasn't a surprise to me. He's been good at Sonoma.
Yep, solid. He's just solid.
Kyle Larson gets the pole and betters his average finish with a 10th place finish.
Yeah, it wasn't really much of a factor. Didn't even lead a lap.
At least he wasn't in 19th, I think, was his average finish or something for this track.
Any race he doesn't crash at this point is got to be considered a positive. He's had such bad luck or mechanical issues or whatever. He's just got to have good luck.
Speaking of bad luck and mechanical issues, Chase Elliott comes home 37th.
Yeah, I was watching when that happened, and I stepped away for a minute and just kind of was like, "What is going on there?" Yeah, fuel pump. That's engine failure. That's just a weird.
Yep.
You don't see that very often anymore.
No, I mean these things.
More commonplace.
If you look at how much these cars are bouncing around, they take a beating at Sonoma, especially. Yeah. So it's surprising it doesn't happen more often. Obviously, that's a testament to how well these cars are built now. But they take a beating. There's a lot of abuse on those curbs and in the turns, and it's rough on them. So.
And this is where his win really helps him too.
Yeah.
I mean that's a nice little cushion to have. He's doing well enough in points regardless, but yeah, he's locked into the playoffs. So doesn't really matter in the long run. But yeah, kind of a weird thing to see an engine failure from a Hendrick car.
Yep. Eric Jones finishes 8th place, had a good car all day, had the flat tire during qualifying, which put him in the back to start, but managed to get a top 10 out of the deal and had a good run. Again, Toyota cars, especially the Joe Gibbs cars, pretty much they were the guys to beat for the most part.
Yeah, they brought the horsepower, had the talent behind the wheel, and they were off and running, man. It was a great day. One guy that sticks out to me, I really thought Kurt Busch would be better.
Yeah.
13th isn't terrible, but
he was a fantasy pick for me, and he hurt.
Yeah, I had him in my lineup too. Yeah, I thought he'd be better. I don't know. I just kind of had a feeling he'd be better.
My fantasy strategy that worked so well at Michigan was a gigantic failure this weekend. But we'll get to that when we talk about fantasy.
Yeah, we'll close.
Let's see. Truex Jr.'s win. It's his 23rd victory in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Out of 493 races he's run, it's his 4th victory of 2019. So heck of a year already for Martin Truex Jr. So.
It's his 20th victory since 2016 out of his 23 victories, by the way. Second most to Kyle Busch in that span, who has 21 victories in that span. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What do you think about, so I was going to ask you about this. What do you think about the Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. rivalry stuff that's been swirling around since Sunday?
I guess I haven't seen this Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr.
I guess
stuff.
It's more of a thing than I guess maybe we think. I mean, these guys have kind of been toe to toe with each other the last few years.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me if you look at stats. They finished first and second to each other so many times.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and they're pretty much even. Like I think it's 7 times they've been first and second, and I think Kyle's got 4 wins to Martin's 3. So
I wanted to see Kyle get a little closer to Truex just to see what would happen. I really want a good inter-team rivalry because it'll make things really, really interesting. We haven't
Kyle Busch has history with that 19 car bumping him out the way back when Carl was driving it for sure. Yeah, I mean
Kyle has history with his own teammates too because he's had plenty of run-ins with Denny Hamlin as well.
He's had that was a good one. Who else did he ever run in with? Not that long ago. Maybe I am thinking about Carl Edwards. Kyle had beefs with everybody.
Let's see. Who has Kyle Busch had run-ins with? Let's see. Joey Logano.
Yeah, that one.
Brad Keselowski.
Martin Truex is on that list too. I was trying to think of a teammate. I think I might be thinking of the Carl Edwards era.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Who else?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a long list.
Yeah,
his brother.
Yeah, Kurt.
Him and his brother couldn't talk for like 2 years. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. All right. Anything else to talk about Sonoma? Should we just move on?
I think we should put Sonoma in. Well, we got a couple more things to say about it, but I think as far as the race is concerned, I think we're on to Chicagoland.
Yeah. Yeah. News. Let's talk about the news. James, you take the first one. You put it in here.
Yeah, so just kind of tying into Martin Truex getting that win, Joe Gibbs Racing now, 326 wins across the top 3 series. That is the most all time.
That's crazy.
Eric, I think they passed Roush. I think Roush had the most. And then I don't think Joe Gibbs is going to be giving that title up. I think that's going to be theirs for a long time to come.
So if you want a really good listen, and I know I point to his podcast all the time, Dale Jr. had Joe Gibbs on his podcast a few weeks ago, and just the insight of how Joe Gibbs Racing started. There's so much talk about it in there, and
Pretty cool.
It's really it's amazing to think that in this, I mean, this was the 90s, but to have a team come from nothing like that. I mean, this is the Furniture Row Racing story without the first 6 years of Furniture Row Racing.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't end like Furniture Row Racing. It's where we're at right now. I mean,
they are the power.
It's crazy to see what they came from. And I remember when that team started, when Dale Jarrett was driving for that team, and like Jarrett, I was young then, so I didn't quite understand the whole, some teams are good, some teams aren't. And, drivers have better chances at certain teams than others, but there was a lot of struggle there too, and
they took a leap of faith in each other. I mean, Dale Jarrett had coming off a pretty decent season racing for the Wood brothers, and took a leap of faith to go with Joe, and a year later paid off with that Daytona 500, and kind of that was the beginning of Dale Jarrett's real career. Yeah,
the whole Wood brothers thing. I think, if I remember correctly from the story, he had just signed with Joe Gibbs for the following season before he won that race at Michigan.
Yep.
So it's like, holy cow. And then, those things don't even translate to me. I mean, because I was a kid. I was at that race when he beat Davey Allison.
Davey Allison. Yeah.
Somebody car. In the 28 car.
Hey, listen, man, we took a week off. It's okay.
Yeah. 6 inches to win. That was like one of my first cup races. And, to think that Joe Gibbs was beginning at that point. It's crazy. Yeah. It's really interesting. So definitely give that a listen.
Every driver that's won races for Joe Gibbs, and they don't have what's really cool about Joe Gibbs Racing is they don't have a long list of guys who have driven for them.
Right.
I mean, you can name them all, and they're right in front of you. But
a lot of them have had success.
Well, they're all Hall of Famers, I feel like. I mean, almost all of them. You guys who have won, Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, Tony Stewart, and then you get into, the guys they have now. It's Hamlin, Kyle Busch. Carl Edwards won for him a little bit. Matt Kenseth made a run with him a little bit.
Joey Logano.
That's it. Yeah, Joey Logano's got a win or two in there too. So
I mean, if you look at the I mean, there's periods of the 18 car, there's periods of the 11 car when there were some, up and coming drivers or drivers that didn't amount to anything, but for the most part, there's a long list it's a short list, but they're a short list of winners, successful winners. Yes.
Really, I mean, they are so sturdy with the driver lineups they have, and they stick with their guys.
Yep.
Minus the Joey Logano experience, but I mean, you could say that worked out well for them when they went and got Matt Kenseth. I mean, it's just crazy. Their Xfinity Series dominance is really unprecedented as well. It's 159 wins for them in that series and 167 in the Cup Series. That's crazy. Yep. They do not have a Truck Series win, but they have competed in the Truck Series. So all their wins, Cup and Xfinity. Wow.
Yeah, interesting. Speaking of Sonoma, James, give us this carousel news you got in here.
So Jalopnik posted a story. I came across it on Deadspin on Monday. Basically, one of the reasons, a piece of the pie, there were many reasons. One of the reasons NASCAR did not run the carousel for so many years is because of all the junk that comes with NASCAR racing. So we got a link to it in the show notes, but basically they talked to some people with Sonoma Raceway, and the carousel was being used to store basically the stage, right, and a bunch of other things that came along with NASCAR. They just didn't have the facility to store all the stuff. And Steve Page, the track president, he gets into it a little bit, but he said he was always overwhelmed when the equipment came rolling over the hill for their every year.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to think about, first of all, there's so many vehicles that, just haul.
The logistics of it are just,
haul the things. And another, podcast shout out, Nate Ryan had one of the guys who drives truck for.
That was good too. Yeah, I did listen to that.
Yeah, that hauls like the pit boxes and the golf carts and all that stuff. That's something you don't realize. If you go wander around the track couple hours after the race is over, you'll see these giant car haulers basically full of golf carts, and the teams you'll see at the end of the race, they pack out their pit boxes and just leave them on pit road. Those don't get loaded in the hauler; those get hauled by other trucks. So there's this whole it's the traveling circus.
Whole ecosystem. Yeah, it's a whole basically a moving village is what it is.
Right. And so you have that, and then now you do driver introductions, and every driver rides around in the back of a pickup truck, right? So you need to have 40 pickup trucks to be able to drive these drivers around, or at least 20 to do 2 in a truck. So that stuff's all got to go somewhere. All this stuff has to go somewhere.
Motorhomes coming in for the drivers.
Right. That being said, though, I did learn this weekend, I think Jeff posted it, Jeff Gluck, a lot of the drivers don't stay in motorhomes at Sonoma. They stay in nice hotel rooms because of the area, and then drive to the track. And some of the fans have figured out where they park, and so the fans hang out there to get autographs. But I do.
Well, it's wine country, you gotta go check out the sites.
Right. Reading this article, there's some embellishment here. I think it's stretched a little bit. I don't see any really trustworthy sources in this article. Yes, they talk to the track president, but even his quotes are kind of like, we're just going to needle this into our story that makes it more interesting. So
no, that's a great point by you. Yes, I should have prefaced it with anything you see on Deadspin or Jalopnik. Right. Always take it with a little bit of a grain. There is truth in there though, but a little grain of salt.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in this article that actually says that
it's a great headline though.
That there was somebody saying, no, we don't have any place to put this stuff. We can't bring the carousel back. I'm sure that factored a little bit into the decision, but this article makes it seem like that was the reason.
Yeah, like I said, it's a piece of the pie. It's not the biggest chunk, but there's a sliver in there for NASCAR had junk they needed to put on the carousel.
Yeah. Speaking of tracks getting new pieces, look at that professional transition, James.
I nailed it.
We found out this week the Roval is getting an upgrade to its chicane on the backstretch. They're going to cut into the inside of the track a little bit and build a real chicane that might actually slow the cars down.
Yeah, they need it.
How about that, man?
Yeah, that was a good call by them. Yeah, that's
and Bubba Wallace cheered.
Bubba Wallace, yeah.
Eric Jones too, right? Wasn't it Bubba Wallace and Eric Jones?
Eric Jones crashed hard. They were going way too fast through there. I remember watching. I think it would be one of my favorite Kyle Busch memories was when they first were testing there.
Yep.
And Kyle Busch was angling the car so he could just gun it all the way through the chicane.
Yep.
It was one of the most incredible pieces of driving I've ever seen.
There was not room where they had it to be able to slow the cars down. They couldn't. There's nothing they could have done where they were to be able to improve it without doing what they're doing. Which
they have to make the cars turn.
The
cars really didn't have to turn on the old chicane. They were just kind of gently leaning over to go through there. So
to really give you kind of loose idea, that there's an article in the show notes if you want to go to the superspeedway.com and click there and see. But basically, in that area, they're essentially widening the distance from the wall on the outside of the track to the inside of the track. They're basically doubling that distance. So the turn is going to be twice as far in as it used to be to a lot for this. So essentially they're going to turn below the actual apron of the track inside of where the wall is and then come back out on the backstretch. So, and it's a legit chicane now. So they will definitely slow down and create a passing zone, which will be excellent because the front stretch passing zone is great. So, and another place for them to all pile up on the green, white checker at the end of the race.
Yeah.
So if they make it through turn 1, they won't make it through this one.
Right. Yeah. No, it's going to have an effect on the race a little bit. It's not, and it'll be good. It'll be a good thing.
My biggest curiosity is what they're going to do with this space when they're not running the Roval. So are they going to put a temporary wall up so there's not, the shape of the wall, you're not potentially slamming into a wall head on? Or are they going to leave this big opening back there? I'm sure they've got that figured out, but
yeah, they've got to put something there because we've seen cars crash there plenty of times.
Yeah, if you're gonna put a surface of the wall where you can possibly hit it head on, these guys are gonna do it.
Yeah,
they've historically found ways to do it.
These guys will find spots.
If you need any help, put Jeff Gordon in the car. He'll find a spot without a safer barrier too.
Jimmy Johnson's crashed really hard on that inside trainer wall before too at Charlotte. Yeah, a few
Probably
times.
not quite that far down, but there would be cars wrecking
No.
there.
Yeah, oh yeah, cars would figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep. These guys find. You were at Michigan. What was it, 2 years ago, Eric? And somebody crashed right where you were standing for the.
Yeah.
For you were taking. Well, you had just walked away, and it was like the weirdest spot on the track.
Yep. Oh yeah, they find play. If there's a wall to be hit, it will be hit.
Eventually.
Eventually. Let's see. Ross Chastain. Let's talk a little bit about him. We mentioned him on there. I mentioned him on the podcast last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about his whole deal. Obviously, last week was had his win disqualified or taken away. This week gets redemption at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, one of the worst raceway names in the history of the universe, formerly known as Gateway. Chastain gets it at the end, man. It was an excellent race. As usual, the Truck Series puts on a great show. As usual, the Truck Series at Gateway puts on a great show.
Yeah, Gateway's a good track.
It's an excellent track. And it's funny because if you look at it on the surface, you'd think this track is awful. It's got flat turns. It's got a super tight turn in turn one. It seems like the worst track ever.
Yep.
But it's great. It puts on some great racing, and they put down some sticky stuff in the turns, and that helped out a lot too. Gave an outside groove, and it was a good race. But Ross Chastain gets it done. Gets to smash the watermelon at the end of the race, and his truck passed inspection this time, so he is qualified for the playoffs as long as he can make the top 20 in points, which shouldn't be an issue still.
That won't be a problem.
No, unless he gets us a couple more DQs before the end of the season, that won't be a problem.
Can we pump the brakes on the redemption word with him? If you get busted cheating and lose a race win because of it, is that really redemption? Now, I like Ross Chastain. I love that dude. He's a great racer. I'm just saying the team got busted. It's not really redemption. He's not coming back from an injury.
There is question on whether they were cheating, though. And especially these ride height things, first of all, it's such a small factor. And yes, Ross is going to say these types of things, but Ross said he was super loose the last part of the race, probably because of this. It's possible that it was not an intentional thing. I don't think, first of all, you're not going to intentionally cheat. You're not going to intentionally have the car too low because you know you're going to get busted for it. You know, so who knows? Who knows on that deal?
Well, I don't know if Nice Motorsports has the maybe, I don't know. That I feel like I'm more leaning towards your side, Eric, where this was just something either broke or wasn't right, and that's more likely, but still, you had a rules infraction.
Alls I know is if there's a guy that can have like jubilation completely squashed minutes later, it's Ross Chastain.
After he smashed the watermelon.
Not only did he smash the watermelon, but then he had to help clean Victory Lane up so the Xfinity race could use it later. He actually helped wash the Victory Lane to find out that he hadn't won the race.
So
it's like, come on. Now, that being said, though, if they did cheat, I'm trying to remember back to his answer with Jeff Gluck. Did he say that he would like to know if he had an illegal part on the car or not?
I can't remember. We have to go back and listen
to it. I feel like
he
said he'd like to know.
That's the original Untitled Jeff Gluck podcast. I'd have to go back into the archives.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, just to circle back around, Ross Chastain does deserve the redemption story because of everything that he's gone through since losing his ride with Chip Ganassi.
Right.
Really, it's just really cool to see this guy having success with the trucks.
So
it's just, I mean, he's a great race car driver, and he's definitely kind of a big dog in the truck series, but he's with these smaller teams. So what he's doing is not, I mean, it's really cool.
So here's one thing that I've been working on. I've been wanting to put together a piece for the website, and I haven't done it yet. And maybe this weekend when I'm at the track and get some time, I might do it. But I want to bring it up here, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. Can we just get rid of this stupid waiver BS with this championship point system? So you have to make it the top 20 to be eligible.
Just be in the top 20.
Just be in the top 20 and win a race. That's all. This waiver thing is stupid. So Ross Chastain gets a waiver because he was running in a different series.
Yep.
But Greg Biffle doesn't get a waiver. I don't understand that. Greg Biffle should have the same waiver. The only way you shouldn't get a waiver is if you just blatantly skip a week.
Right.
Johnny Sauter got a waiver.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah, for his suspension. This is ridiculous. This waiver stuff is crap. Get rid of the waiver. It's not necessary.
It's not. It's not. And Ross Chastain was granted it because he's run every race or attempted to qualify for every race, which is fine.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm good with that. So don't make it necessary to have a waiver. Just be done with it. If you're in the top 20, you win a race, you're eligible for points. I'm good with the whole he wasn't eligible for points when he won in the series the first time. That's fine. That rule makes sense. The waiver thing doesn't make any sense because it's just at a whim. And almost everybody gets a waiver except for Greg Biffle for some reason. Not that Greg Biffle is going to run for the championship now because he won a race, but still, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but if you claim that this is the series you want championship points in, by all means, go get your championship points and be in the top 20.
If Kyle Busch can win the championship with missing almost half the season, then get rid of it. It's stupid. Then that's the system. That's great. I am totally fine with that. I take Kyle Busch's championship as a championship, just like any other championship. We can debate that another time, but then they don't need a waiver. Just if they meet the eligibility, let them race for it.
Yep, make the top 20. That's it.
Yeah.
Or wherever you set the line. If you set the line at top 10, so be it. That's fine.
Exactly.
Set the line and tell these guys this is the criteria to make it.
Yep.
Here are the rules. We're not going to grant you a waiver, take a waiver away, or whatever the heck they're doing. Just set the line.
Yep.
Call it good.
Yep. Oh, Johnny Sauter. Let's talk about Johnny Sauter. So Johnny Sauter, mentioned in the podcast last week, he was suspended this week due to his incident at Iowa with I can't ever remember the guy's name. Who did he wreck? I don't remember. Do we care?
He bombed out. No.
Okay.
There's your do we care for the week.
There you go. We don't care. So anyway, Johnny Sauter did something stupid, got suspended. Everybody talked about all week on NASCAR radio about how NASCAR shouldn't suspend him, blah, 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 blah. And then when he got suspended, everybody talked about on NASCAR about how it's so good that they suspended him, blah, 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 blah. So anyway,
NASCAR radio, by the way, when the callers call, that's what they play on in hell.
It's true. That is true. Dave Moody lives in hell every day. So Johnny Sauter got to race this weekend regardless. He finished second to Ty Majeski in a late model race Saturday night. But James did not get a chance to talk about his penalty. So I wanted to discuss that here real quick. I have a feeling we're probably going to be on the same page, and it might be a really short discussion. But I'm going to let you start. First of all, did he deserve the penalty he got? And if he did, was it enough?
It doesn't matter because he's already in the playoffs.
Okay, maybe we're
the
not
stupidest penalty I've ever seen. No,
But he can't. They can't take his playoff eligibility away for it, can they?
I mean,
you're
going to penalize. Not for. Well, here's my thing. You don't penalize. First of all, it's a stupid penalty, because he wrecked Austin Hill and I don't know, man. This felt different to me than the Kyle Busch thing.
The only reason it felt different to me than the Kyle Busch thing is because the front of the truck that Sauter was pushing went left instead of right.
That's true.
But it was the same thing. He drove through him just like Kyle drove through Hornaday.
I don't know, man.
And he didn't lift when I think it was Hill. Wasn't it Austin Hill?
Yeah, it's Austin Hill. Yeah.
So when he spun Austin Hill, he still didn't lift and crashed into the door as well. I understand setting the precedent's been set with Kyle and setting the penalty. Yes.
However, if you're going to penalize somebody, make it worth something. It doesn't mean anything.
How do you make it worth something? How do you do that?
I don't dock him playoff points or something. If you're going to have
if you're going
to have the playoff system be what it is, the repercussions can't just be for one race. That doesn't mean anything because you're just giving Johnny Sauter a free weekend off.
Right.
And in the Truck Series, the sponsors don't really. I mean, do the sponsors care as much as in the Cup Series? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, the sponsor probably cares because they probably had a chance to win at Gateway and didn't should. I mean, Myatt Snyder ran really well for somebody who hasn't been in the truck.
Yeah. So what's to say? Let's say let's use Ross Chastain as our example. What's to stop him if he gets into the playoff picture from retaliating against somebody and doing the same exact thing. There's no repercussions. He's already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What's the matter? And I don't know. It's a I don't know. It's a pointless penalty to me, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
It means nothing.
So my issue with it is, first of all, and I'm, as somebody who works at the local track, somebody pulls something like this, they get sat. That's it. You don't tolerate people wrecking each other with the cars, but we also don't tolerate fighting in the pits either. You fight in the pits, you're getting thrown out, and you're probably getting suspended. That being said, from an entertainment aspect, I freaking love it. I want to see this. I want to see more of this. Mm-hmm. So with NASCAR, you're between a rock and a hard place. You don't want to encourage it, but you don't want to discourage it either. And the one thing that NASCAR has to think about too is you are the series that people look up to, or you at least want to be the series that people look up to. And if the young kids that are 15 years old racing at the local short track see Johnny Sauter pulling that crap, then they might feel like it's okay for them to pull it at the short track, and where it's not going to be tolerated.
Yep,
so
I agree with that.
And I feel the biggest thing for me was that if they're going to allow this type of stuff, then they need to make a statement like they did with the Boys Have At It thing, that we're going to allow this type of stuff. And if they're not, then they need to stick to the precedent. And the precedent is you wreck somebody under caution like this, you get sat for a week. And unfortunately, when it happened with Kyle, it wasn't during the current playoff system, and it didn't matter. Then again, Kyle got sat in a cup race for something he did in the truck series.
Now that penalty, that mattered.
Right.
That I feel like that really was a severe penalty for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, that was huge. So, that being said, he tried to kill Ron Hornaday, so
that
I mean,
that was a violent crash. And Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano, that was a 2-race suspension, if I'm not mistaken, for Matt Kenseth. I think
you might be right, yeah. But that
was under green flag conditions, so that does leave a little bit of wiggle room for NASCAR to say, well, that's a green flag versus a caution.
It was also, I think there's also a thing where that was way more premeditated than wrecking somebody immediately after you get wrecked. He sat the whole race waiting to get him back. And also the playoff implications as well, because he pretty much knocked Logano out of the playoffs, any chance at the playoffs at that point.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's one of those things you got to take by a case-by-case basis, but I think NASCAR set the precedent. They had to suspend him. They had to. They didn't have any choice.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing against the suspension. I should reiterate, too, that, if that's the precedent that's set, I'm okay with that. You suspend him for a race. But
I like the idea of a couple playoff points, though. Take some playoff points away.
Yeah, you should. Even if a driver hasn't earned playoff points, you should put him in the hole, because if this is the system we have, you need to have some sort of repercussions.
Yeah, make it a severe penalty. You sit it for a week and we take 10 playoff points away from you. I mean, that'd be huge.
Right. Now, if an NFL player like Ndamukong Suh stomps on somebody's face in week 17 of the NFL and his team's in the playoffs, he's not playing that first playoff game. He's going to get sat. Yeah. I know there's a whole 2 different seasons thing that people might bring up, but a crime is a crime, and you should pay the price.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I like that idea. I do agree that the penalty was pretty toothless, and probably hurt the team more than it hurt Sauter. I mean, Sauter didn't care.
No, he's fine.
And he's pretty much said he doesn't care.
Good for him. Yeah, I mean, be be that way about it. That's fine.
Does Sauter have any regrets? Auto Week here. Let's see. It was, I'm guessing, Matt Weaver. Yep, Matt Weaver.
Matt Weaver's your Auto Week guy. And
does Sauter have any regrets? Honestly, not really, Sauter said. I thought about it a lot. It's a tough one. We'll see how it goes.
Austin Hill did kind of... He got into him pretty good. I can see why Johnny was mad.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Like, there was some history there, too, so I can kind of see... I don't know. It's tough. It's... In some aspects, I think it was harsh, too harsh. Some aspects, I don't think it was harsh enough.
And Johnny Sauter should know better. He's 41. He's been doing this.
He's a hothead, though.
Oh,
it's
Sauter. Yeah.
And, we want people like that in the sport, so...
I have no problem with it. I am all for the rough and tumble stuff.
I mean, I am too, but you got to pay the consequences when it happens then.
Yeah.
So.
We don't want to see any more... if that Kyle Busch thing ever happened again, especially nowadays, I feel like he'd catch heck a lot worse than he.
I don't know, Kyle. There's still people that hate Kyle Busch over that deal a lot.
Oh yeah. But now in the online age that we've blossomed into, even since then, the people would be coming at him. Shoot, Tony Stewart got people came at him remember when he backed into Brad Keselowski on pit road? That was right after the whole Kevin Ward thing happened, and people were furious about that.
Yep.
He was in the firestorm for a long time, and that was merely just bumper cars.
Right. All right. Any other news that I missed, James?
I don't think so. I'm checking the feed. I don't see anything sneaking in.
It's been pretty quiet, which means it's time for something exciting to happen.
Well, we're heading to a racetrack where some really stuff happened last year.
We had lots of stuff to talk about after Chicagoland last year. This weekend is the Camping World 400 at Chicagoland Speedway. It is actually Camping World weekend. It is the Camping World 400 on Sunday. It is, I believe, the Camping World 300 on Saturday, and the 250 on Friday night, I think. I don't know. They're all Camping World races. So,
what would NASCAR do for
Camping World 225 on Friday night?
There you go. The 225.
Yeah, 225 for the trucks. And then the ARCA series is there on Thursday night as well. So,
what is that? The ARCA?
I don't know.
Camping World 175.
It's the ARCA 18 cars. See how stretched out they can get on a track, on a 1.5-mile track. That's
just
what it is.
Just drive for an hour and we'll wave the flag.
Yeah, exactly.
What would NASCAR do without Camping World? Honestly.
Oh man, they'd be hurting right now.
They sponsor everything.
There's a lot of races sponsored by Camping World right now. Every time Camping World writes
sponsored by them.
Every time Gander Outdoors or Gander writes a check, they're putting some big money in this sport.
Yep, it's good.
Yep. So yeah, speaking of Chicagoland, I'll be there this weekend. I am heading down Thursday morning. I'll be on my way down there, and hopefully we'll be at the ARCA race. I don't really have real big aspirations of watching too much, but I'm going to go get my credentials a day early. And there's some Truck Series practice. Depends on what time I can get down there. Hang out a little bit on Thursday, and then be there all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lots of fun stuff planned. There'll be plenty of articles on the site. Lots of coverage, lots of things. Hopefully have a bunch of audio next week. Weather looks promising right now. It looks a lot better than it did about a week ago when I started checking it. So that's good. And if any of you guys are not from the Midwest, it's been pretty much a day of sunshine and then 4 days of rain lately. It's been kind of ridiculous.
Yep.
So hoping to meet up with the guy from Barron Speedway to hopefully get him on the podcast as well.
Yes.
So
he's been doing some really cool stuff on his Instagram.
Oh yeah,
account.
definitely. Want to check him out. Barron Speedway on Instagram. He's got a YouTube channel as well, and I would just get the shout out of the way because I was going to do it anyway. He's been doing some tutorials on how he did some of the stuff. It's pretty neat. His track is awesome. So looking forward to talking with him a little bit about that this weekend at Chicagoland. But we have a race, first of all, and if James has done the notes correctly, I get the first pick.
You do get the first pick.
And I am going to go way out on a limb, James, and I am going to take the guy who won it last year, and I'm going to go with Kyle Busch as my pick for Chicagoland because we're back to that package, and it's a Kyle Busch track. So there we go.
Yeah, the KB show. I'm gonna go for a little bit of a reach.
Okay.
Not much. He's got the best driver rating of anybody in the playoffs right now for Chicagoland. I'm going to go Chase Elliott.
Nice.
Yeah. He has only 3 starts at Chicagoland, but of the 803 laps he has run, he's led 117 of them, and he's got an average finish of 8.
Best average finish at Chicagoland is Kyle Larson, who has not won a race there yet, but he has 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s in 5 races.
He likes these kinds of tracks. I just don't know if he'll be able to do much with it. And
I know nobody probably remembers last year, but he was pretty close to winning last year. So.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah, really good finish.
Yeah, he was right there.
There it is. 1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary. Dale Jr. coming back to the booth this weekend. NBC back.
Yeah, you're going to be in the house for Dale Jr.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. So, James, who's your dark horse?
Oh, dark horse. Oh, man. I'm going to go with the momentum train, Matt DiBenedetto.
Okay. I think you pick him every week just so I have to spell his name.
I feel like I don't pick him a lot, but maybe every time that I have the first pick, maybe, I don't know. But
all right. Let's see. Who do I want to go with here?
I think we're going to have to outlaw Alex Bowman from Dark Horse picks.
Yeah. Are we outlawing William Byron yet from Dark Horse picks?
He's creeping in there. Man.
You can tell me no.
No, I don't think we can outlaw him just yet. It's pretty close,
He hasn't won a race. I mean,
he hasn't won a race. Neither has Bowman.
His average finish here is not. I mean, he's only run one race, but it's
Yeah, I'm okay with you if you pick in
20th.
Byron. I'm gonna allow it.
I'm going William Byron. I'm going William Byron because I really don't think he's going to win it. That's the thing. Like that, you pick your dark horse as somebody you think's going to run well. It's not necessarily somebody you think's going to win. I don't think he's going to win it, but
yeah,
I think this is going to be a Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. type of race again. I mean, we're going to see the Gibbs guys up front. You're going to see Hamlin up there. You're going to see those guys. Larson will probably be a factor because it's a Larson track.
Yep, and if the Fords can replicate what they kind of showed at Michigan, that we might have another Ford.
It's true.
Fleet on us, Logano.
Yeah, this isn't Michigan though. I mean, Chicago's
no.
Chicago's so different from Michigan. I mean, look at Atlanta. That's really, I think that's what you want to look at as to what we can expect this weekend.
But that was so early in the season too. It's hard to say.
Well, it also wasn't this package because we didn't have the Aeroducts there.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting. So yeah, we've got the Aeroducts. We have the 550 horsepower package. We'll see what all that brings us at Chicagoland. We had the best race, easily the best race of the year, one of the best all-time races ever in NASCAR last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it can repeat this year. There's been some good races at Chicagoland. There's been some awful races there.
Did you see Bubba Wallace's tweet about having 750 horsepowers back under the hood for Sonoma? All he put was, I think he just tweeted 750, whoa, or something like that.
I love
it was
Bubba.
something to that extent. I'm paraphrasing.
Man, I want Bubba to get in a good car.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him running up front.
It would be
for
fun.
Sure. Yeah.
James, any other shout outs?
I don't really have any this week. It has been such a quiet week.
Yeah, mine is again Barron Speedway. Check him out on Instagram and on YouTube. He's got some videos up there, and hopefully we'll have an interview with him in the next couple of weeks. I don't know when the audio will play, but I'm hoping to get that this weekend. Fantasy League. Let's talk about Fantasy League real quick. I had a great strategy last race at Michigan that I thought was going to work out really good for me again. I'm still not revealing it because I'm going to try it one more time this weekend.
I think the terminology is poop to the bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't finish last, so it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. Do you have it in front of you, James? Because I don't have it. I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now too. So I'm filibustering.
So prepared here.
I know.
NASCAR's site is.
Yeah, and when you go to load it and you get the error message, that's always encouraging.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm finally finding overall standings, which is not where you'd think. No, league. There we go. And then you have to click on the race.
Oh, thank God it worked for somebody.
All right, Freight Train gets the win this week, tied with Hurricane Ditka for first with 184 points. James comes home in second/third with 180 points, right behind him. Close race for you, James.
Stupid DiBenedetto benching, really.
Yeah, that would have put you up on top, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would have been there.
Justin 713 comes home in fourth with 175. I had 158 in fifth, just above Ranger Runyon at 152, and Scoters bringing up the rear with 97. I feel like Scoters may have just picked back markers. Did he pick Danica Patrick by chance this weekend?
I don't know.
97 points. That's pretty tough.
It's a solid strategy to pick Danica Patrick. It's working out really well for Aaron Rodgers right now.
Yeah. How do you get 90? I don't even know how you get 97 points. Anyway, we won't pick on Scoters there. Overall, let's see. Justin 713 still in the lead. James, you have passed me.
Finally.
I am hanging back in sixth now, just above Scoters. And Hurricane Ditka second, Ranger Runyon, Freight Train, then James. That's our Fantasy League update. So I'm going to try again this week and see if I can come up with a little bit better finish and see if my strategy proves to be better more often than it's not. And then maybe if it fails this week, I will tell you what my strategy is.
Well, listen, you're batting 500. That's pretty good.
I think I'm better. I mean, I'm better than 500. I didn't finish last this week. I didn't finish first and then last.
That's true. I mean, it's not. Yeah, so maybe like 650.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Anything else, James, that we're missing?
Man, I think we're good.
I think we need to stretch this out a little bit, man. We're only at 54 minutes right now. I think we need to stretch it out.
I think people are tired of us at this point.
Probably. Like I said, I'll be at Chicagoland Speedway this weekend. There'll be all kinds of stuff. Follow me on Twitter to get updates on there at T Super Speedway. James, where can I find you on Twitter?
At James Cush on Twitter as well.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. I'll be posting links there as well to the articles that we write. But you can find those on thesuperspeedway.com. Hopefully there'll be some photos up there as well. I haven't quite, again, decided what my coverage will be. I'm probably going to concentrate heavy on writing and audio, though, this weekend. You can find the podcast on that website as well. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope that you subscribe if you want to see us at more tracks. Help us out. Become a part of the podcast. Visit us at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway and sign up to become a patron of the show. James, I'm off in a couple days to Chicago. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll meet, at least get close to what we had last year. That's all we can wish for, right?
It's a reach, but maybe, maybe it's the step. Maybe that's the place. Maybe Dale Jr. brings it with him.
Just some passing, I don't know, some excitement. We don't need a photo finish. We don't need a last lap pass. We just need some excitement at Chicagoland this weekend. So looking forward to it. Chicagoland's a great track. If you guys haven't been out there, if you're thinking about going, you haven't gotten tickets yet this weekend, do it. The temperature's supposed to be lower than 112 this year, so that's a good thing.
I forgot about that. This is the race where you ruined your shoes last year.
Yeah, I melted my shoes to the asphalt. I actually had to buy new shoes after this race. It was hot. It was hot in Kentucky too, but this one, Friday night for the Truck Series race, they had the air on in the press box, and for the first half of the race, we couldn't see the race because the windows fogged up. I mean, they were literally fogged completely over, and then they turned the air down, and it finally came around once it cooled down outside. So, yeah, it was hot last year. Should not be that hot this year. Weather looks good. Come on out to Chicagoland if you've never been there. The track is great. The viewing is great. The infield is low to the track. The track is actually elevated on the backstretch, so you can see everything there. It's a great place to go. So check it out if you haven't. Like I said, we'll be back next week to talk about Chicago and preview Daytona. And until then, everybody, let's go racing.